2021 session. Okay. So first of all, folks, welcome to our first, kind of our first workshop of the Youth Impact Challenge cycle. We did have like an info session before, so this is our first one that's not just about information about YC more broadly. I do encourage folks to check out the info session, but I will maybe kind of just highlight that I do hope many of you folks put in projects that you're thinking about. Maybe there's an idea on the shelf that you're wanting to develop, and hopefully with this session, you're going to get an opportunity to kind of refine that concept a bit more, allow yourself to be creative. And we're going to do a few different exercises that really going to both exercise the creativity and just saying that, hey, let's put all these ideas on the table, but then also ultimately how to refine this to something that will address real problems in your communities and make a difference. Before I get into it, I might actually paying Jess here. Maybe Jess, can you give like a very high level of kind of what our whole summer challenge is, just for anyone who's new to that? And once you got that going, that'll also give a little bit of context for our session today.
Sure. So y'all have probably seen me either in sending a bunch of emails, notifications, all the Slack messages. Essentially, our Summer Innovation Challenge is really, and again, I'm biased as a past YIC alumni from 2021, 2022, as well as staff, but I think it's really an awesome opportunity for youth to kind of collaborate in creating these solutions and ideas to help make positive change. Y'all have probably already seen, but we have a bunch of workshops that we run throughout the summer, essentially taking participants from that kind of idea stage, going into more the concept, and then into kind of how to build on that and use some of the information like Indigenous thought process and human-centered design to kind of help bring that idea to what some people might choose to do, like a prototype or implementation, or kind of continuing with that research to help see their idea through fruition. Some of y'all may have seen, but we have the 3 different rounds. So round 1 is that proposal. Y'all probably seen that is due on July 3rd. A little bit of, I guess, a plug for the effective proposal writing workshop, but I highly recommend attending that before you write your proposal, because there's a lot of information that is shared, especially as we go through like our rubric and things like that, and this workshop as well. But we also run a couple different like pop-up mentorships, as well as a few different networking events and that, but essentially really focused on collaboration with each other, as well as fostering those connections to both help youth kind of explore their passion and their ideas, as well as to build those connections that could help them in their innovation and journey overall. So yeah.
Muted there. So as we start a slideshow, thanks so much, Jess. I want to give a huge shout out to Arpita. Arpita was our lead coordinator the last couple of years, and this slideshow I'm going to be presenting has been largely created by her. And so we're grateful that she's created a foundation from which we're now kind of being able to present even a couple of years later. So with Ideation, one thing I really like about this first slide is this little note in the corner, and the thought that when you come up with various ideas and concepts, it's important that we find maybe an intersection of a few different things. Number one, it is important that we have ideas that are solving real problems, but also ideas that we care about that address kind of certain skills, that kind of deal with certain skills that we may have ourselves, and then also ideas that we're actually passionate about. There's actually a concept that I want to maybe introduce you folks to. Let me just pull it up here. Here, give me 1 second. I'm just going to do a screen share. I don't know if has anyone heard of the concept of ikigai by any chance? Maybe feel free to raise your hands if you've heard of it. Kobe's nodding. And anyone else? Maybe Kobe, you want to share a little bit about what this whole Ikigai thing, or Joy? Actually, maybe I'll go with Joy because Kobe's our staff, internal staff. So Joy first. What is Ikigai?
Sure.
And then
I
Kobe, you can
haven't
add.
I've only like seen it. I think my Instagram feed has definitely been feeding me a lot of content when it comes to purpose and stuff. But I think it's like a Japanese framework for finding purpose that considers like four main areas that I don't recall, unfortunately, but um it's like a framework that tells you what to think about when like choosing your career or like something that you want to do with your life.
Yes, 100%. Do you have anything to add there, Kobe? Maybe anything more specific?
Yeah, now I was trying to like remember the four different categories, but I know one of them is like something you're passionate about. One of them was like something you can make money for. But the rest I kind of forgot. But I do know it's an
I think
intersection of four things, like
I
Joy
think one of
mentioned.
them is useful to society
Ah,
in
yeah.
addition to those, but I can't remember the fourth one. I can Google it though.
Yeah, I have a picture that's getting is ready to share. Any ideas on what the fourth one might be? You got three of the four.
Can I go?
So these are the four. So what are you good at? So the idea here is, you know what, we come with different skill sets. So for example, some of us might be computer programmers, some of us might be, we're marketers. As others, our skill set comes in the engineering side. Right? So we're all coming with different things. And let's take a problem like climate change, huge problem, lots of different elements in there. And so, like for example, when outside of the FinTech Challenge, I'm also part of a very cool team called One for Earth, and our goal there is to create communities dedicated to environmental action, which we've done through various things where the core is we create like networking spaces for climate action. And that reflects that a lot of the people in our team have a particular skill set around networking, community building, that kind of work. Others might be more into the education side. Others might be more into let's say the scientific measurement space. So within the climate space, there's lots of different problems to solve, but depending on our skill sets, there may be a particular way that we express and find that purpose to your point, Joy. Also, what do we love, right? Is there something that not only are we good at, but we actually enjoy, and it's something that's giving we feel fulfillment in ourselves. Does the world actually need the thing that we're wanting? Sometimes, we might be wanting to like code this most incredible, amazing program with complex lines and of code and all this kind of stuff. But then sometimes, when you put out there to the new world, it turns out it's not actually what was needed. And so that part of the ideation process is also identifying what is actually needed by the community we're trying to serve. And finally, what can be paid for. And in many ways, even if it's not even if it's not a business concept, one thing I'll note with the Youth Impact Challenge specifically, we believe that innovation comes in lots of different forms. Business, tech startups, all this kind of stuff is certainly one of them. There's also nonprofit concepts, art concepts, all of this stuff. And when you say what you can be paid for, I think a core thing is, in order to run any initiative, are there folks who are willing to support it in a way that's going to make it sustainable? So even if it's not paying for in terms of money, like are they willing to invest their time as volunteers to keep this going because they share that same sense of purpose and drive as you do? And as you can see, as like all these different things are intersecting in different ways, oftentimes the reality is in a lot of our, whether it's a career path or a project, why I say concept is a project, we'll find things that intersect with two of these things. We might have a really interesting problem, but the truth is our team might not really have the skills to address it in the right way. And so like, how do we ideally find some kind of problem and some kind of project or set of solutions or a career path which actually addresses these four different circles in terms of what we're good at, what other people are willing to support as well, what you love and what the world needs, and that kind of intersection is called ikigai. Kobe, you raised your hand there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, thanks, you know, great point about the getting paid for it part and the different ways that we can get kind of compensated for it. I want to hear your story about how you, obviously, you're very involved in the NGO and nonprofit space. How did you end up getting into this position of being able to have this as, obviously, you mentioned part-time, but as something that you get paid for? How did that journey come
Live
about?
For sure. So one thing I'm going to say is lived experience is everyone has like their own unique stories. And one thing that gets me, thank you, Kobe. I really appreciate you asking me a question because it's what gets me excited is hearing like the origin stories of a lot of different things and often various different projects. They all have different stories. But what I'll say is one is part of the journey of Ikigai for me. I'm going to go to paid for in a second. A part of the journey of Ikigai was also like reflecting lived experience because with lived experience comes, there's a problem I'm actually passionate about. You have that sense of what the world needs because you are the world, you're part of the world, and you see in your community that there is something that there's like real gap that you're feeling, and there's also there, sometimes you're that much more motivated to develop skills that can help address those gaps. So I think, in a sense, these origin stories of almost every venture that I've had a leadership role in has been lived experience. Whether it is I started a sports nonprofit with some folks called Halifax Plays, that's grown to what 6,000 odd people now. And that came from a shared experience of not finding affordable adult recreational sport programs in our community. With the origin story of One for Earth, they used to call the Oath Project. Oath stands for One Act at a Time to Help the Earth. Hashtag Take the Oath. That started with 5 people across 9 time zones having a shared experience of eco anxiety, and we all kind of reflected on how climate disasters were really impacting the communities, and we didn't really know what to do about it, but we had this shared sense of we want to do something about it. With the Youth Impact Challenge, part of my lived experience is being on the other side of these things. I've been the person who's been pitching and developing ideas and all this kind of stuff. I've been on the other side of this very workshop, and so one thing that we're kind of keen on is how do we kind of return the favor and try and give people a positive experience when they're now on that the other side. So lived experience, Kobe, is, I would say, a key part of finding ikigai. It's not the only way, but I think for a lot of people, that sense can really drive one's passion forward. In terms of getting paid for it, I'm going to give a very honest answer. And the honest answer is sometimes it takes a long, long time to be able to be paid for something you love doing. With One for Earth, the honest truth is that there are many supporters who help us out, but in a very real way. Like I'm not paid for that work, and it's, if anything, I end up putting in a lot of funds myself in order to keep that project going. Now, with that, one thing we have found in terms of getting other people engaged is, number one, in terms of financial supporters and the like, similar with YC, is number one is finding people who share that same understanding of there's a real problem here, and who feel that their way of contributing is to perhaps provide financially or provide volunteer support, provide some in-kind thing. And in a way, you are trying to find the other parts of the ikigai equation to see how, as a community, you can create and put forward a project. And so, in essence, you're trying to find people who can relate to the problem. And part of that challenge is also being able to pitch your problem and your solution in a way that is appealing to a set of funders or donors, or in a YC context, you folks are going to be creating this proposal, and you need to like share this passion to the people who are us essentially, and our judges, in terms of, hey, I'm showing to you that I have a competent team who do have the skills to address this problem, that this is a real problem, and look at all of this research that demonstrates it's a real problem. So again, we're going through the ikigai a little bit here, right? And I could, in the way we're writing, we can see that we actually genuinely care about this problem. And you know what? We have a strategy where beyond you, we see others who are potentially willing to support us. And so there's a strategy for keeping this solution sustainable. So this kind of approach is going to be valuable in how you pitch. So I think being able to present oneself is very powerful in terms of being able to secure that kind of support. Hopefully that answers your question. Does that answer your question, Kobe?
Oh yeah, sorry, I was giving a thumbs up. It totally does. It
Thumbs
makes
up. Okay,
sense.
cool, cool. Sounds good. I guess but sometimes when I'm in presenting, I don't really see emojis and reactions and hand raised things. So like just unmute yourself, especially if you're a small group. Yeah. And one thing I did, I love the note that I'm just seeing that you put something in the chat there. The market research workshop, very valuable, especially to like demonstrate that the world actually needs something. How do you do that research? So there's going to be a workshop where one of our alumni who's done some incredible work post YC is going to share some strategies around effective market research. So for today, we're going to do a bit of an introduction. There's a little bit of skill building kind of exercise we want to try to kind of get into ideation. We're going to do like a more dedicated design thinking workshop later, but we're going to kind of introduce design thinking at a very brief level, especially as it relates to how do you go from having an idea, being broad about it, but then kind of narrowing it down to something that's effective. And then we may, if we have time, we'll go into something called the Scamper framework, which helps refine one's ideas. Although we'll see how we're doing for time there, and we will then conclude things. So first of all, when it comes to ideation, some things to keep in mind is that especially at the beginning stage, you may as you once you develop an idea, you may see that idea doesn't have the legs that you thought it would. Maybe the demand isn't there, or it's a little bit perhaps there's an idea which isn't quite ready in terms of technology to implement now. So, but it's I think very valuable in those early stages to just put it out there and say that, hey, let's put these things out there, and then later on we're going to refine it. Actually, with the Youth Impact Challenge, before every summer, and we did this exercise this year as well. We have a basic ideas board where we say, hey, how can we improve YC and get it to a new level, and then we allow our team, anyone on our team, to like share all these any ideas that they have. And there's maybe like literally a couple dozen ideas, and then we refine it into, we're not going to execute on all of these this year, but there's a couple that perhaps we want to really highlight. For example, the launch or the relaunch, I'll say, of our certification program was something that we wanted to invest resources in this year. Our certification program, by the way, very high level. If you do a certain set of courses and workshops, then even if you're not participating at YC, you can still get a certification, which I believe is called like Introduction to Change Making or something like that, to reflect that you have invested this time to learn about how to be an effective change maker. So in that beginning stage, no bad ideas, but then later on you might refine and investigate them and be like, hey, you know what, this is more something that's worth kind of continuing. I think this attitude as well, that we are here to learn. It's not about right or wrong. It's more about let's try and understand these different possibilities. With a team, encouraging different folks to contribute. I think this is especially important for folks like me. When we're in a particular leadership position, it can be very tempting to always be like, hey, this is I'm in this position here. I'm going to push my ideas, but sometimes the most valuable ideas come from others on your team, and especially sometimes if you have folks who just started, they may come with a new perspective and kind of see the same problem you've been dealing with a new lens that they bring to the table, and also being creative. By the way, even this workshop, the ideation one, was something that Arpita identified was a gap, and that was like something which as someone coming in, I didn't necessarily see that, but then with new eyes, ARPIT identifies that, hey, there's a gap in this workshop. And so again, leveraging the team. And so there's like really lots of ideas, and especially in the beginning stage when you're trying to figure out what you may want to do for YC, or just in general in terms of what is a project that I could do that is actually going to help the world or has that potential and help my community. Allow yourself to be broad and think of all these possibilities. Maybe to that, we're going to try and kind of encourage a little bit of creative thinking here and thinking around different possibilities. So I would like for you folks to find an object near you. It can be an everyday object, doesn't have to be fancy, okay? I'm going to give people a moment, and maybe let's here, like, can I see people? Give me a thumbs up once you've picked your object. I can't really see people, so I'm just trying to figure out a way. Maybe, I don't know, maybe just in the chat say ready or something, okay? Okay, there you go. I think I can see people's reactions. So a thumbs up if you're ready in terms of picking an object near you. It can be any object, everyday objects. I actually can't see thumbs up. Maybe, Jess, can you just let me know if everyone's picked them? It's very hard with screen sharing to see reactions.
Yep, I'll let you know when they're good to go.
Okay, sounds good. I think Antoine's got it. Barry's got it.
Yep, it looks like
Joy,
everyone's good to
yay!
go.
Awesome. Okay, everyone's got their thing. Okay, so now come up with a few different ways you can use the object, and feel free to be creative. For example, if you have a piece of paper, then sure, you can write on it, and that's something that we typically use paper for. But it can also be origami, and it can also be like a speaker thing, right? And if you want to project yourself, you can use that paper to project yourself. So allow yourself to be creative. So let's give it here 3 minutes, and I'll encourage people to come up with at least 5 uses for your objects. All right, we'll come back at 36, so a couple more minutes. All right. All right, folks, we'll give it like 20 more seconds and slowly come back. Hopefully you have at least one interesting use or favorite use. It doesn't have to be, well, I mean, it can be interesting and favorite at the same time. All right, Jess, I might get your help here. Maybe folks, feel free to raise your hands using the raise hand function at Zoom. And Jess, maybe if you can pick people since I can't really see who's raising your hands. Is that okay?
Sure, I can do that.
Thank you. You see a couple of people raising your hands, but I don't know who they are. It just says
Anton,
two
I'll
participants.
tag you to go and then we'll go from there.
All right, so the object that I picked is a pen. So the uses of it, you can like take notes, journaling, you can draw with it. You can use it for like doing contracting work if you want to mark like wood or some stuff. So personally, my favorite thing to do with a pen is probably like, of course, like writing, because it's pretty important. So yeah.
Cool, cool. Any kind of uh, non-traditional ways to use a pen, Antoine, that you came up with?
Oh, non-traditional. Um, you can use it as like a hair accessory to like tie your hair.
Hey, there you go. Love
Yeah.
that. Love that. That sounds awesome. I'm really into sports, and so I remember with my cousins, we used to always play this game. It was like soccer. You'd get a
Mm.
crumpled ball, and it was kind of like hockey. It's kind of like hockey with a pen, hockey slash soccer. And yeah, so hair accessories, sports thing, just writing. There's so many different things you can do with a pen. So love it. Awesome. I love the hair accessories. That's a fun one. How about you? Who else is next?
Ibere and then Kobe, I'll tag you to go next after.
Okay, so I picked a pillow. Um, so this is not a pillow, it is a weapon for pillow fighting.
Oh no! Oh my gosh! Hey, you gotta watch out here. Yeah.
That's what I came up
So
with.
love that. All right, it's gonna be pillow versus pen. All right, we'll see who wins. Amazing. And Kobe?
Yeah. I guess I came up with quite a few. I chose like sunglasses.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one obviously is like to block you from the sun. To
Mm-hmm.
block your eyes from the sun, provide a little bit of protection. But the other ones that I came up with were possibly to like hide your identity or like
Mm-hmm.
hide your expression on your eyes. It could just be like an intimidation look, because obviously I think these ones are pretty darkly tinted. I don't know if you can see. And then I also wrote down uh it can be used to cover up like a black eye or a pink eye. Like if you don't want someone to see, like you just put the sunglasses on, you're good. And then the last one, which like should actually this wasn't even intentional. I was just like thinking, I was like, oh yeah, we could donate these to people. And that's actually something that I first entered in for the Youth Impact Challenge 2 years ago. Was now a nonprofit called 2020 Mission. And what we do is we collect secondhand eyeglasses and we donate them to people in need because like I'm sure everyone here has a couple pairs of sunglasses laying around, but a lot of people don't actually, and that's actually a perfect kind of tie into my project. So hopefully that makes sense.
I love Kobe, the plugin for your project. This is amazing. So way to get that in. And also there's like videos on Kobe stuff on our YC Instagram that I really encourage folks to check out. And there's one what we have just released a video of like some of her historic submissions, and we particularly spent some time on Vision 2020. And just one example of like a project which it wasn't even a grand prize winner, but like they did really well. They did their mission trip. Where was it again? Kobe, that you folks donated your glasses to?
Yeah, we last year in April we went to Guatemala, and so we like pretty much
Incredible.
organized most of it. Went down there, ran a 5-day clinic, helped 450 people get proper eye care, and it was like in a really rural, remote town. But I'll send the link of the video if anyone wants to watch it.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, this is what like gets us really excited is like, hey, it's not just young people coming up with the idea, but our whole mission statement is ideas to action. An example of what it looks like when you take the idea, actually get it to happen. I think take the YC money maybe, but then there's other fundraising that you might do that you may need to do in order to get something executed on, and seeing that ripple effect of now, 450 additional people are now helped in a very meaningful way. And I remember hearing from Kobe just some of these stories, especially when you have people who maybe weren't able to afford glasses their lives, and then this is the moment where they can finally see the world in a different way. So it is incredible work that you're doing, Kobe, and really all of you folks are kind of the fact that you're here and just exploring these ideas really is a chance to make some real impact. And hopefully the idea of this exercise is to reflect that with almost any problem, there's many potential solutions, and equally for almost any thing or any solution, there's many different ways that a problem can be addressed. Even something like AI. And AI, we hear about AI a lot, but how do you actually effectively use AI to address problems in unique and different ways? And so you can take the same thing and actually use it in multiple ways. And that's part of the idea of ideation. So now we're going to get a very brief kind of intro into design thinking. And I really like this particular picture. So what this is kind of demonstrating is when you have a problem, it's very valuable for us to think of all the potential sub-problems or expansions of the problem that one can have. So for example, give me I don't know, Jess and or Kobe, one of you folks, can you give me a problem, like a problem that's impacting the world in the impact space?
Sure.
It can be
So
anything.
I'll say the increase in extreme temperatures in terms
Great.
of
Okay.
cold temperatures and super hot temperatures, especially the weather this past week in Ontario.
Sounds good. So now we have lots of different kind of issues, different kinds of problems that we can address. At our Climate Change Makers Challenge, we had in one of the hottest towns in South America, in North America, in Mexicali, Mexico, we had a group who identified that you can barely go outside because it's so hot. And so for them, the problem that we're solving is people, human beings can't go outside. For others, it might be there's forest fires that are happening now because of the increased temperatures. For others, it might be there's a water scarcity issue because increased temperatures are leading to drier riverbeds. For others, it might be that this change has created a higher risk of extreme weather events, beyond even forest fires. There's other extreme weather events that they might be at risk of. So there's many different sub problems that one to have. Maybe part of the core problem is the fact that there's the release of industrial waste and greenhouse gases. So there's so many there's that problem, but then that problem can be expanded to so many sub problems. And then the challenge is, how do we, maybe using a bit of that ikigai process, kind of define a problem that's a little bit more specific? So now you've heard all of those potential subproblems. Is there one that particularly appeals to you, Jess, as something that could be interesting to look
at? Sorry, you meant in terms of the sub problems changing?
So all these subproblems. So we took the problem of increased temperature. There are so many subproblems that kind of results in. What is the specific subproblem that you think we should invest time into in terms of something that's like worth our energy and efforts?
I am actually going to open it up to everyone to if anyone has any ideas, because to be honest, I'm a little bit stuck because this has been a problem that is so big that I have a hard time kind of breaking it down, if that makes sense. So
okay, sounds good. Okay, let's just pick any of those subproblems. Anyone else have a specific subproblem, and this is just for illustrative purposes, that they might want to explore, and then we can look at potential solutions from that subproblem. So what is a subproblem around this increase in temperature that we may want to pick?
Maybe we could pick something like relating to how it affects the ecosystem.
Sure, sounds good. So biodiversity loss. By the way, I know when people talk about climate change, it's important that we think about the triple planetary crisis. Have people heard of the triple planetary crisis by any chance?
I haven't personally.
No? Okay, so there's the climate change, there's biodiversity loss, and then there's pollution. And they're all interlinked, but they're also somewhat like unique, distinct problems. Which is to say, biodiversity loss isn't purely about climate change; it's also like things like poaching that's happening, or like overfishing, and those are things contributing to biodiversity loss. But then also, climate change is significantly impacting it, especially as it relates to these temperature changes and the fact that there are places where ecosystems where the animals that used to live in a place, the plants and animals used to live in a place just can't live there anymore because of these temperature fluctuations. When it comes to pollution, of course, air pollution is directly relating to climate change and a greenhouse effect. And there's other things like plastic pollution, which has an indirect impact or sometimes even like semi-direct impacts, although they're also distinct and have distinct impacts by themselves. And air and like things like pollution also impact biodiversity. So they're all kind of interconnected. So oftentimes people talk about climate change a lot, which is good, but it's also valuable to think about the triple planetary crisis and how they all connect. So I really love that as a sub-problem. So let's look at biodiversity loss, and let's go even more specific. Let us say with the increase in temperature, there is a loss of coral reef. When water temperature increases, it's impacting coral reef ecosystems where there's been significant coral reef die-off. And that's essentially our richest marine ecosystem is now at significant risk. So now we've got a specific sub-problem. We can even go more specific and say, let's look at Indonesia specifically and the problems of Indonesian coral reef systems as it relates to this problem of air temperature, not air temperature, of water temperature increase. So coral reef die-off, which is very much linked to the temperature increase. Now, what are some solutions to addressing a coral reef die-off issue? Any ideas?
I guess one solution to kind of go with that problem is potentially the creation of like artificial reefs
The
to help. And
100%.
one of these, and for some of
Yeah.
y'all who probably haven't known, but some of the team knows me as a video game nerd. And one of the projects from one of the games I play actually made like a artificial coral reef installation off the coast of Australia about
Incredible.
10 years ago. And so that's helping with the um, kind of bleaching of the reefs and a lot of the
100%. Yeah.
how the ecosystem has been affected. So yeah.
Yeah. There's been some incredible stories of some of this work happening. We actually, one of our alumni is for the Climate Change Makers Challenge is head of the Indonesian Coral Reef Foundation, and this is one of the projects that they've been exploring, and it's been successful. It's how do you create artificial coral reefs to regenerate ecosystems that are already damaged? You also mentioned something else is maybe there's ways that we can bring in video games or something to increase education around and awareness around this issue. So we've got a couple solutions there. Any other kind of solutions that we think may be valuable or could be interesting to explore as it relates to coral reef die-off? If not, I might suggest a couple. So, for example, you could have something around monitoring. So, for example, there's been another Climate Change Makers alumni created a solution which essentially uses satellite imagery to understand how big is the problem in this area. And that's obviously can help you diagnose a problem so that you can address it effectively. Another kind of solution might be looking at things like taking species that are at risk and ensuring that there is a protected area where the temperature isn't as much of an issue, so that at least some species are migrated and they're able to thrive in that in a different part of that ecosystem so that later on they can be introduced if the initial area is kind of can be regenerated. So there's many different solutions. So you can see we went from a problem, we went to many different sub problems. We specified a specific problem we want to look at, looking at that whole ikigai concept, and also looking at where is what's we did some market research perhaps, and that helped us really define a problem. And then from that problem, we looked at, okay, this specific problem has many different solutions. And so we now again expand. You can see the kind of the reason why the diagram is in this diamond shape. And then we start narrowing things down as we again look at ikigai and say, okay, based on these skill sets we have, based on the things that we're actually drawn to, we believe that we are best suited as climate educators, and because we have the skill set of working with youth, we've got the skill set of having strong social media platforms, and therefore we're going to put our kind of expertise and our efforts into the education side of this broader problem. So this is kind of the idea with this cycle is you're often going to go through this iterative process where you go from a problem, narrow it down, you go look at possible solutions, narrow it down, and you may keep doing this and doing this and doing this as you kind of define and redefine both your problem and solution statements. As you do this, you're going to see a lot of different kind of steps. And in the interest of time, I'm just going to go through them. So number one would be think about when you look at a problem statement, think about where the need is. Have you done the research to actually back up at your problem and what specific sub-problem might be most interesting to explore? And how do you contextualize a potential solution? I think when Arpita talks about this itch, I think the idea is what's giving you that passion, that thing that, what, I feel I can do something about this. Oftentimes, there's, for us, there's different things that we're like, hey, you see something in your community and you're like, I think I can address that problem in a unique way. Or I think that, what, there's something someone else is doing that I could bring to my part of the world. And so there's something that's giving you the itch. There's something that's keeping you up at night, bothering you. And it's just like, hey, you know what? I know I can do something about this. Define this further. So who are, especially as you develop your solution, who are the stakeholders? How can we get more information to both understand a problem better and understand a solution better? Also ensure that your solution complements what other work is being done, or if it is competing with other solutions, that it is doing so in a way that is kind of meaningful and addressing the problem in a different, more unique way. And what are we learning from these conversations? And then finally, who is impacted by whatever solution we create? Understand that oftentimes solutions will have both negative and positive impacts. Who is impacted by something we're trying to do? What is the problem? When do they experience it? Why should we care? Here, by the way, I'll reflect, we may be doing a workshop on systems thinking. And one thing that we really encourage people to do is to also think about the various impacts of their solution, because the reality is almost every solution you have has both positive things it can do, but also sometimes not so great things. So take something like, I'm in a private consultancy I do with the Aga Khan Foundation is in clean energy like adoption. And so big part of that is solar energy adoption. And solar energy, of course, has many incredible benefits, but I think it's important to be aware and think about the fact that, in order to get lithium that's needed for a lot of the battery technology, or cobalt that's needed for the solar panels themselves, requires a lot of invasive mining procedures in places like South America and Africa and other parts in Asia. And so there's oftentimes exploitative labor practices. So here it's important to reflect on, what, the thing that I'm doing will have multiple different impacts. And then you can see again, you're gonna start then refining your solution and saying, okay, based on these potential impacts, I think actually it's better that we not do this, rather we're gonna do this. So you're gonna see this kind of cycle of problems and then exploring solutions and refining and refining and refining. And this brings us to this idea of the sandbox. And this process of refinement is what's called human-centered design. And by the way, we are just doing the intro of like what that is. And there's going to be a workshop delivered by Maggie, who just joined our team. And Maggie's has a lot of experience as an kind of youth innovator entrepreneur herself as well. And they'll go into human-centered design into even more detail beyond that ideation stage. Something we reflect on here is this idea of a sandbox. So ideation is big and broad, but it isn't only about brainstorming. It's about trying out different solutions. And so you may, especially in this stage, before you pitch something to YC, you may want to be like, okay, I think I see 3 potential ways to deal with the problem of coral reef, this coral reef issue. And here, let's explore them and then see which one makes sense. And sometimes you may well commit to one route, and then as you develop it further, you realize actually we should take a step back. So this is why I highlight that especially innovation is a very much an iterative process, and it's you're always refining and refining and refining as it relates to your ideas. The final thing, and I'll just go through it very quickly, given the time, and then open it up for questions, is this concept called scamper. So a scamper is it's a way that we can modify our ideas, and it's basically a way that we refine our ideas, but in different kind of how do you refine our ideas in different ways? So one is you can substitute an idea. So for example, it might be, let's say, let's take the example of, instead of potato fries, I might substitute it with a healthier alternative. So a way to innovate is to take the potato fry, and now we use sweet potatoes, or we use, which isn't necessarily healthier, but you can use maybe you don't use oil fried potato fries, you bake in the oven instead. So like, how do we substitute in order to create the innovation that's going to be unique and effective? Or you could combine it. Maybe we say that, it's not just going to be potatoes. We're actually going to have different vegetables, and that's going to be the way that we kind of innovate in this space. Or you might adapt it. We're going to use less oil, perhaps. Are we going to use recycled oil, or are we going to use something that's a little bit more creating more positive impacts? We might modify it. Modifying might be magnifying certain elements, or minifying. So again, the oil example, sometimes you might use less oil, and that would be you're minifying it. Or maybe you want to kind of have potatoes that are organically grown and that have like specific positive properties. You might put something into another use. So maybe you're not going to sell potato fries as potato fries anymore. You're going to take it and actually you put it in other food. You put it in your burgers instead, and instead of just having it be a standalone product, you might eliminate certain things as well. And say that, part of our innovation is we don't actually need this thing, which is actually creating negative impacts. Or you might rearrange different parts of your solution and say that, instead of doing this step first, we're going to do this step. Our process of making a fry is changed, and ultimately that's making the process more efficient. It's making it healthier. And so part of the reason we get the example of McDonald's is used here is, although McDonald's isn't necessarily the best example of like positive social impact and that kind of thing, there's a lot of history around how they refined the process of creating fast food, essentially. And so how did they create fast food where they brought in various machinery at various points. They combined elements of their manufacturing, cooking processes. And my first job was actually in the fast food industry. And they took a lot of these different things and they created efficiencies, and that's where they were innovating. And although this is used more as an illustrative example, you can imagine using it in almost any innovation, addressing almost any problem, including in that impact space. So that's kind of our little brief introduction around ideation. We've just hit the 10 o'clock mark here. So I'm going to pause there, say thank you to all. We can stop the recording, and we'll stay around for any questions